It's been dark way too long in this place. That bright smile long gone been replaced. From ear to ear I see that fear in your face. Tell me when the last time you felt safe, cause there's some evil people in the streets. Evil at your front door, creeping while you sleep. It's time to raise up, show that evil we ain't weak. We don't turn the other cheek, I can show you how to be strong. Come on, follow me. Heard you looking for a hero. Well, look up. No more running from the bad guy. I'ma stare him in the eye like, what's up? I know the journey got hard for a minute, but I ain't giving this up. Yeah, I got the heart of a champion. If I get knocked down, I get back up. We go through bad days, hard times, low pay, high crime, pathways to a life without sunshine. I'm the lifeline. With this life, I'm gonna be the pipeline, shining in the nighttime. Bet on me to swoop down. I'ma go toe to toe. Already know that I'm never gonna back down. Bet on me to stand tall. I take on anything for my crew. Bet I risk it all. Wicked people in the streets. Corruption in the politics and the police. It's time to raise up. Take a stand against the seat. We won't take a back seat. I can show you how to be strong. Come on, follow me. Heard you looking for a hero. Well, look up. No more running from the bad guy. I'ma stare him in the eye like, what's up? I know the journey got hard for a minute, but I ain't giving this up. Yeah, I got the heart of a champion. If I get knocked down, I get back up. 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 If I get knocked down, I'ma get back up. If I get knocked down, I'ma get back up. If I get knocked down, I'ma get back up. I'ma get back up. I'ma get back up. Heard you looking for a hero. Well, look up. Yeah, no more running from that bad guy. Don't worry about it. I'm right here. What's up? I know that journey been hard for you. Okay, I ain't giving up. We ain't giving up. I got the heart of a champion. If I get knocked down, I get back up.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to our live stream tonight. Everyone on YouTube and Facebook, thanks for joining us. My name is Jamie from Training for Survival. I'm here along with David. How you doing, David?
I'm doing fantastic. How are you?
Good. We cut that one close.
Oh, we did.
We're trying to get logged in here and we're having some technical difficulties, but we're here, we're live. Got about 10 degrees outside here in the Maine North Woods, and it is snowing vigorously outside. How about where you are, David?
Nice. About 28 degrees, just a little icing out. We had a little snowstorm today.
Yeah. Well, you guys are a little bit warmer than us.
Yeah, a little bit.
All right, so
keep that weather.
Well, you got to keep in mind when you live up here, you want to snowmobile, sled, and do all the other fun outdoor stuff, skiing. So we're getting into the good season, a little bit late than usual, but we're getting there. So tonight's conversation, we're going to talk about EMPs, and for those of you who are joining us tonight, David and I had this conversation a few weeks ago about doing a segment on EMPs. A lot of our clients had asked for it, so we've been doing a lot of research, speaking with a lot of people, and gathering information to give you as much information as we can regarding EMPs. So without further ado, EMPs are a temporary electromagnetic signal that can disrupt, degrade, and damage technology. It is a pulse that can be created either via natural or a man-made type of event. We're going to kind of break that down a little bit as well. David, tell me a little bit about what you figured out.
Yeah, so like you definitely broke it down pretty well, but when you talk about naturally how it occurs, it's something that comes from the sun. So the sun will, which is what's anticipated to happen, will send out a flare, and it sends out a massive amount of pulse, which will scatter throughout the world, right? And it'll come down in pulse waves down to the earth, and it affects electronic devices, right? So our electronic devices can only handle a certain amount of pulsation, right? That's what they're designed to do. So this is a massive increase in influx where it absolutely annihilates the electronic devices because it can't handle the amount of pulse that's coming down.
Right. And the first one we're going to talk about is going to be when it's a natural God event, right? Like a solar storm, which is a big one, and how that can affect electronics. So what I thought was interesting, David, and you and I were kind of sharing information back and forth when we were talking about the difference between like a solar flare released from the sun or a plasma, where you kind of see that burst of flame coming out of the sun and traveling, the time it takes for it to actually reach Earth. So an interesting thing I found out with a solar flare, when released from the sun, takes 8 minutes to reach the Earth, versus a plasma release into space, which takes approximately 3 days to reach Earth. So I thought that was really, really interesting. The other thing to keep in mind is that unless you're watching the sun and analyzing it, you're probably not going to, with the blind eye, see that there was a solar flare or a plasma released from the sun just by looking at it or just going about your day-to-day activities. That was pretty interesting.
Yeah, and it happens so far away, so it would definitely be a surprise. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. The other part which really shocked me is that we already had a major EMP event here on Earth, and it happened in 1859. It was called the Carrington event. And back then, obviously, people didn't have electronics and devices like they do nowadays. Their main source of communication back then was a telegraph, right? So when this EMP event actually happened, it fried all the telegraph systems and communication, not only from our continent, but also communicating back with Europe. And there is someone that was actually looking at the sun, an astronomer back then, who was looking at the sun and actually sketching out the sun when the event happened, and he saw the explosion on the sun. And didn't really put two and two together until a day or so later, when everything got fried, and realized that the event, and he ended up calling it the electromagnetic event that happened, right? And so I thought that was amazing that way back then we actually had one of these all-natural events. And they say that these events are bound to happen every 100 years. I'm not a mathematician, but if we look at, 100 years went by at 1959, we're kind of overdue for one of these events to happen.
Yeah, they keep talking about that. It's just a matter of when it happens.
And when it does happen, you know what it affects, which helps us out here a lot, because I've sent you pictures over the past couple months, is the auroras, right? So when there's a solar flare or there's a minor event that comes off the sun, you get a better visual of the northern lights here and where we are located in Maine. When that event happened in 1859, they actually were able to see the auroras all the way down to the tropics and down to Hawaii.
Wow.
That's how significant.
Impressive.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So it's a really powerful event, and it's something you need to be prepared for. It's going to basically fry anything that's electronic. And the bigger the transistors and the resistors that are inside of these components, the more likely it's going to create more damage. And one of the things I found that was interesting is that the smaller the electronic and the more protection, like they say, maybe your cell phone, because it already has some protection embedded in it for power surges and so forth, may survive. But the electrical grid and the cell towers will not. So you might have your cell phone, you might be able to turn it on, but you're not going to be able to, send out any text messages or communicate through your phone. Another thing that was interesting was we started talking and looking into like these Faraday cages and ways to protect your electronic equipment, right? And David and I had talked about putting covers over certain electronic equipment and so forth. And there was these Faraday cloths and covers that I had researched, and I listened to an expert talk about those will not work. So don't waste your money on something that just covers the top of an electronic device. You actually want to encompass something around everything, from the bottom, the sides, and the top.
So It's
Go ahead.
really interesting now that you brought that up, because they do make the Faraday cloths, right? So
Right.
the thought I had, and a lot of people have, is all right. So we have these cloths, our vehicles. We can protect our vehicles,
Yeah.
cover our vehicles, but there's a downfall to it, because what happens with those pulses is they come down, they hit the ground, and now if you only have the top of your car covered, those pulses come back up and does absolutely nothing for your vehicle.
Yeah. So,
So you have to have a fully encompassed cloth or cover, shield, however you want to put it,
yeah.
a full bag.
Yep. Absolutely.
And also, even with the bag, right, Jamie, we talked about this. I mean, just because if I put my phone in the bag, let's say the phone systems do work, I take it out.
Yep.
When do you take it out? You
Right.
take it out right away, so like it's all about timing, and it depends on the amount and
Yeah.
how large this attack is, or this event is,
So here's an interesting thing. The EMP, when it went off in 1859, the telegraphs weren't working. There were a lot of sparks and fires that were started off the telegraph systems. However, there was a guy in Boston who disconnected the batteries and things that were being used for the telegraph system to communicate, right? And he was still getting an electrical system. And he was able to send a message to Portland, Maine, believe it or not, that to disconnect all of your electrical components. And they were running and communicating for about 2 hours, from what I read, using strictly the electrical surge that went into the wires that was still bouncing around and going through the system. So they were able to at least communicate for a little bit, and then everything kind of died out. I don't think that's going to be the case in our situation, because of how reliant we've become on different sources of communication. We don't have a landline phone, right? At least most people do. There's quite a few actually up here that do. But a lot of people don't have landline phones anymore. It's actually cheaper nowadays to have a cell phone than it is to have a landline phone. Obviously, telegraphs are non-existent. So the cell phone towers are probably going to get fried out, and I don't think they're going to run anymore after an event, because all the circuitry that makes them work and communicate are just going to be totally fried. And then radio communication towers would be the next thing. So repeaters are going to be important, but those are probably going to get fried out for communication. Internet's going to go down, cell phone's going to go down, water is going to be non-functioning because the power grid is down. You might get a little bit of water pressure for a short period of time, but they say don't drink the water immediately after one of these events, because it's probably going to be contaminated, because the processing stations, if you aren't on a well, they're going to be down, so they're not going to be filtrating the water or putting anything in it, or as it comes over to you. So they tell you not to drink the water. So this is really, I thought I was educated on this before I started researching, but as I really started diving deep into listening to podcasts and doing research and reading white papers and reading government research, I'm just amazed by how these are going to really, really affect things, and how prepared you need to be, because we are overdue for a natural event like this, how prepared you need to be able to survive one of these things. Here's another scary statistic, and I know, David, you read this too, that 90% of people will not survive within a year after an EMP event, because they're either going to starve to death and are unable to take care of themselves. So that's pretty crazy to think about, that staggering amount. 90% of people are not going to survive afterwards. In 1859, they already had, livestock on their farms. They were already trading commodities back and forth with people. So it affected them that they couldn't send telegraphs, but otherwise, kind of life went on. People still jumped on their horses and went to work and went about their day-to-day lives. Another thing to keep in mind with the EMP, I was asked a lot about radiation effects of the EMP, and will affect a human being. Is there radiation effects? And
and your food too, your food supply.
And what did you find out?
Yeah, it actually doesn't impact the food. It doesn't impact any of that. So it's not going to have any harm, such as directly on the food. But as Jamie mentioned, it affects everything. It affects your sources of food. It's going to source your effects, your food supply, your fuel. You're not going to be able to get gas for your car. Your vehicles probably aren't going to run. So it affects so much that that's exactly why it's, think about what they said, about a year, you're going to have 90% of the population gone,
Yeah.
which is crazy. And the other thing that I thought was really interesting too, Jamie, one of the common questions was, do you have to have, if an item is not plugged into a wall, we get a surge. Doesn't matter. And it'll affect anything. It doesn't matter if it's plugged in, not plugged in.
Right.
Which I thought was really interesting. Unless it's in maybe a Faraday bag, you got a better protection from it.
Right.
But the neat part about that, there are things that you can do to protect yourself.
And we have something to announce. Yeah, we're going to talk about that. Before we move on to that, I want to talk about the non-natural event and talk about if there was a terrorism type event or someone was to deploy one of these EMPs, how it can affect things. So there's two ways that this can happen. And when the nuclear EMP would go off, the way this would work is they would send this rocket into the air. Now, they would put a payload on there, which would have this EMP payload, and it would be shot up into our atmosphere about 300 miles above Earth. That's when it would be detonated. You would not be able to see it with your eye. You would not hear it. It would be done way above our atmosphere. That signal, once it goes off, would reach the ground within seconds, nanoseconds. That's how quickly it would travel down to Earth from 300 miles above our atmosphere. So there really wouldn't be any time to prepare. And the reason why I'm saying that is we get into the conversation in a few minutes about the protective bags and things you can use, that you're not going to be able to take yourself and put it into a Faraday case while you think the event is happening. At that point, it's already too late. So it's a good idea to take some backup equipment, hand crank radios, a spare cell phone, ham radio, which I saw some questions coming through asking about ham radios, and we'll answer those in a second. Take the equipment, emergency equipment, and stow it away in a Faraday box now. Put some extra batteries in there now and make sure it's sealed and it's tucked away somewhere, so that when the event happens, you are prepared, rather than thinking you're going to kind of conquer that in the moment. It's not going to happen. So this isn't something to put off. What I also thought was interesting, and did you read the facts about Newt Gingrich back in 2011?
No.
Okay, so he started sounding the alarm back in 2011 about EMPs, and started trying to get bills passed to try to harden our infrastructure. So utility grids, there's about 3,000 around the whole country. Most of them are privately owned. There's a few that are state-owned, government-owned, and there's only approximately 2 or 3 in the whole country that have put into place some type of protection against an EMP. Now, if an EMP was to take out an electrical grid, it's taking out these huge, huge transformers. And these huge transformers are bigger than the ones you see on your telephone pole. They're not readily available and accessible to be replaced. So if a power grid goes down and they take out 20 of these transformers, or even 10 or even 5 of the transformers that kind of encompass a whole area or a neighborhood or a community, it's going to take a long time to get those transformers replaced. Here's the bigger thing. Guess where they're made?
Yeah, some are made overseas too. Yeah.
Most of them are China.
Yeah.
Most of them.
It takes 2 to 3 years to build them.
Yes.
So go figure that. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's funny. I was watching something, and they did talk about it can be protected. So if the government wanted to invest the money, they could protect all of these stations, right? They're saying it would cost somewhere around $100 million or $100 billion to do the protecting. And they've been
for the whole
talking about
country.
3 years. Yeah, whole country.
And how much should we send to Ukraine in the past 30 to 60 days?
Could have paid for it right there.
Yeah, could have been done, and we could have been protected from it. So there are a lot of senators and politicians that have been trying to push this through for a while. And matter of fact, Donald Trump in I believe it was 19, if I remember my date correctly, had signed an executive order to start to move things forward. And then when he left office, it kind of fell by the wayside. But I think this is extremely important that we start running with this again. And a good way to kind of get the ball rolling again is probably for everyone that's watching this live stream to contact your local politicians and your state senators and ask them, what have we put into place to protect against this type of event? And you would like to support legislature moving forward to get things in line. I found out today an interesting bit of information that there was a senator from Maine years ago, don't know how many years ago, but she had put together legislation for our power companies to start putting these things in place, and it started moving forward. But I didn't have time today to find out where we are in that process, right? Knowing that most of the national statistics and things I read said there were only a handful of places in the United States, and most of them weren't up in the Northern Hemisphere that were protected. I think that probably didn't finish off the process of getting things protected. So I guess we as people can start to get that process going and, be loud about it and talk with our local politicians about pushing things through to help protect our grids. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, 100%. Well, I mean, I know we can protect the grid, right? That would be fantastic. But I think we can also protect our homes, right?
Yeah, and let's talk a little bit about what we have to offer here. So there's a product called EMP Shield, and I have one of the products here. Dave Hall here in town has a few of these, and let me borrow one today to bring this in. So this is a product made by EMP Shield. This is for a whole house generator. And what you would do is hook this up to your electrical components going into your generator. And if there was an EMP event, this also protects against lightning, but if there was any type of large electrical surge, such as an EMP event or a lightning strike, it would immediately suck in all of that energy into this device and not let it get into the circuitry of your generator. Now they make these for your home, to cover your whole home, and they have a breaker unit that goes to your breaker box, whether you have an external breaker box that's installed in your wall or external. They also make these for your vehicle. Now I've ordered a few of these for the vehicle. I know David and I, we've kind of talked about this. And when it's installed inside your vehicle, it will stop an EMP from frying your vehicle and make it operable after an event. Awesome, right? So I reached out to EMP Shield and let them know we were going to be doing this live stream, and wanted to get some more information from them, and they were gracious enough to give us a promo code for our listeners and our clients to be able to use, and it's right here. It's T4 Survival. So if you go to empshield.com, look at what you like to purchase, use this code, and you'll get $50 off your purchase. $50 off by using this code. So thank you to EMP Shield for giving this code to us for our clients. We greatly appreciate it. The important part, though, is...
Yeah, no, I was just going to point out, this EMP Shield is fantastic for the house. Okay, so it's not only protecting from an EMP, they offer full coverage on lightning protection. So if something does happen, you're covered. They are insured by one of the best insurance companies that deals with this situation.
Right.
So you get kind of double the protection.
Huge.
It's kind of win-win.
Yeah, I've had stuff fry, especially here in my office during power surges, because we have power outages that happen all the time, and the lights are blinking on and off. And I've lost 3 printers in less than 9 months through power surges. So, knowing about all the sensitive electronics inside your home, having this in your home for a lightning strike or a power surge would be phenomenal. I did ask EMP Shield a couple important questions, because we were bouncing stuff back and forth, David, and one of the questions you had asked was how long after an event would we be able to use our devices? And they said they would suggest waiting a minimum of 24 hours after an event before trying to use your devices, before opening up your Faraday box. And you're going to be anxious to do so because nothing is working. You're probably, panicking and scared, and you're going to be anxious to open up that box. But they said wait a minimum of 24 hours before you expose anything to the EMPs or what might still be in the atmosphere or through the wires. If there is a direct hit by a lightning strike into the EMP Shield box, they say it will fry it. However, they said they will replace it and it's covered under insurance. So you can't go wrong for your investment, knowing that if it gets fried, it protected everything you wanted it to, and it worked properly, and then you would just replace it. So highly recommend EMP Shield and checking out their website. If you are local here and you have a vehicle that you'd like to have covered, go to Dave Hall. If you need his contact information, message me or put it in the comments and get you his contact info. He's right here in Greenville, Dave's Automotive. Outstanding guy. Go see him. He will hook you up. Tell him that T4 Survival sent you. He'll give you a nice package price for the module for your vehicle, and he'll install it for you and get you on your way and give you that peace of mind that if, in the event that something happens, that you have it. So definitely contact Dave. Let him know you heard it here and get yourself covered. If you are not local and you're anywhere else in the country, head over to empshield.com and check out their product line. Use the code T4Survival, get your discount, and find a local person that you trust to make that install for you, either inside your home, on your generator, in your RV, or inside of your vehicles.
All right, so we have a couple questions. One has to talk about ham radio. So we'll disrupt a ham radio. I mean, I would have to assume that if you had a EMP Shield units attached to your home, right, and everything was plugged in there, yeah, it would save the unit that you have.
Yeah.
Would it save the communication? I guess if it was protected on the end of the receiving signal, sure,
right,
it would. But I would have to guess that it's just like a cell phone. If I save my cell phone and we don't have that communication piece, it's going to be pretty much worthless because it does have the electronics. But the neat part about the Shield, so we have, does the whole home surge protector also provide protection from you? So that
does not.
It's not really it's not a surge protector. It's an EMP protector.
Right.
So what will happen if you have that hooked up to your electrical panel, and everything's plugged in the walls, everything that you own in your house plugged in, everything's protected from that EMP.
And it has to be plugged in. That's the caveat. So if
you
you have
what you would think.
Right, exactly. So if you have something unplugged, a TV or something inside your home, or medical equipment that's unplugged, and an event happens, that's not covered. It will not save your equipment. It has to be plugged into the outlet with this EMP Shield for it to work. Very important. For the ham radio, I highly suggest getting the biggest damn antenna you can find, especially if you have a handheld unit, to be able to broadcast as far as you possibly can after an event. So I think the antennas that are into the ground and that have diodes and electrodes on them, those are probably going to get fried during an event. But a lot of these smaller BAOFENG handheld radios where you can get police frequencies, radio communication through ham, CB, and so forth, those I highly recommend. And get some collapsible big antennas that you put inside your Faraday case to be able to protect those. And don't take them out right away. Wait a little bit, at least, they say at least. If you guys have more questions for us, please drop them in the comments and we'll get to them. I've also created a bunch of links of things that David and I recommend that you should purchase for Faraday bags, cases, and so forth. I'm going to put them in the description after the live stream is over. So it's going to be easy for you to go down to the description, see the products that we recommend, click on the link. It will take you right to Amazon or wherever the website is and show you exactly what we're recommending. Like there's a couple of radios, hand crank and solar powered, so they both work in both ways. They have flashlights, they charge phones if you need it, or other devices. It will also work in some of them in larger communications, TV bands and so forth. I just have to warn you that it's going to take a while before you're going to get any type of like TV communication or regular radio communication. I think the first line of communication and ham radio. I think ham radio is going to be the way to go for communication, and that you can hear globally. Newt Gingrich, who we just talked about, sounded the alarm in 2011. Remember the Chinese balloon that went over the United States?
Not that long ago.
So he tweeted when this happened, and I'm going to read exactly what his tweet says, is China has a super EMP weapons that knows how to protect itself against an EMP attack and has developed protocols to conduct a first strike attack, even if they deny they would ever do so. China has used stolen U.S. technology to develop at least 3 types of high-tech weapons to attack the electrical grid and key technologies that could cause a surprise Pearl Harbor attack that could produce a deadly blackout to the entire country. And he said that that balloon that was going over is a perfect example of us not knowing that was there. They used, and we talked about this, David, they used our internet companies in the United States to send data back. But imagine if they had an EMP device on that and deployed it.
An explosion, yeah.
How easy would that have been?
Very.
Right? Yep. So we've talked about natural occurrences, a solar storm type of event. We've talked about a nuclear EMP event that would go off and detonate hundreds of miles above our atmosphere. But the other part to this is something that could be more in a geographic area that might just cover a neighborhood or a community. And Roosevelt Island just a few weeks ago in New York, what happened? They had that explosion going on. And the first thing I thought of, because they lost power on the island, was what if that's an EMP attack? Now, they say it was caused by an earthquake. Who knows, right? What really happened there. But that alone just showed quickly how things can kind of go south really quick and how scary those situations can be. Manhole covers were being blown out of the ground, and the whole—
It was a mess.
It was a real mess. And a lot of people didn't hear about it. It wasn't a big thing announced in mainstream media. You kind of had to dig a little bit to get any intel on it. Another thing that we should keep in mind, that civil unrest. If the grid goes down and there is no communications, no electric, no food sources to be able to get food at the grocery store, no fuels being pumped into vehicles, and you have this EMP shield inside your car. First thing you need to do if an event happens is get your butt home and get out of the public eye. Because guess what everybody's gonna want when all of the cars are stopped on the highway and it's hard for you to get through and you're driving on the side of the median or the grass to try to get out of there to get home. You're gonna be a big target. So planning your egress from wherever you work or live of how you're gonna get home is gonna be very important. On the flip side, if God forbid something happens between now and when you get the EMP shield installed and you're 20 minutes from your home, how are you gonna get home? Probably gonna walk, run, right? And have a plan with your family of what they're supposed to do. So if the kids are home and you're out, what are they supposed to do? Stay put? Are they supposed to go over a family member's house that's not too far away? What is everyone's plan in this type of event? And you should have that conversation now with your family members so they know what to do, and that you're gonna make your way home somehow or another, and they need to wait there for you. And they need to prepare to protect the home and not rush into open up that Faraday box and trying to communicate with you, and just being patient. And man, that's gonna be difficult. I mean,
it's gonna be crazy.
It's going to be really, really crazy.
Yeah, fast, very fast. It's going to go.
Yeah. Things are going to go south really, really quick. Yeah. And multiple sources. And we had the blackout. Remember the blackout in New York? I remember how long ago it was, 8-10 years ago. Wow. There was a blackout in New York City, and it went on for a couple of days. And what started to happen? People started to freak out. Stores were being looted, right? Windows were being broken, and that was just a short period. They say that it's going to take 9 meals, 3 days. Dave Hall, the 9 meals was for you. 3 days is what I read before stuff really starts to go sideways and people start to really, really freak out, right?
Yeah.
So you need to be prepared.
Go to the same places. It's going to wipe out quick.
Yep.
Start preparing now.
Fuel storage is going to be important. Extra batteries. If there was an event, your vehicle is running and you have the opportunity to stop at the convenience store on the way home, things may not be operational in there, so have cash. Cash is going to be very important. Have cash that you don't have inside of a, at home, have it on you, right? So if this happens, how are you going to access cash? Keep your tank filled at least 3/4 at all times in case there's an event, because if you're at 1/4 of a tank and you need to get home and you don't have enough gas, who knows what's going to happen? Here's a good example of why you don't want an electric vehicle. Because think of everything's going to be fried in that, and the amount of distance you're going to be from home, and if you have to charge that vehicle in order to get home, there's going to be some big problems.
I mean, think about it from this standpoint. Vehicles in general, 95% of the world is going to stop. Your vehicles are not going to run. It's going to be gridlock. You're going to be on foot.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't care if you can have an EMP shield, right? That's great,
Right.
but you're going to be the one car out of the 300 cars on the highway, and you're stuck. So
Unless you live in here in Greenville, Dave Hall's going to install about 100 in the next 3 weeks.
Yeah.
But,
So we had another comment, Jamie.
Yeah.
I currently own a whole house surge protector. Will it cover EMP? No.
Also, Jeff asked the same question. It will not.
Yeah, so I think, so it won't. It has no EMP protection. Now,
Right.
if you had the EMP protector on your house, then you're probably safe and covered. But at the same time, you're not going to have any power because the grid's going to be down anyways.
Right. Now, let's say that, go ahead, David, go ahead.
No, I was going to say the only positive to protecting your house, or one of the positives would be when you think about it, once things start to come back on, God willing, you're still able to endure it, and it's not that long.
Right.
At least you'll have power, you'll be able to live. But again, you'll become a target because most houses are probably not going to have this because they're not going to plan and prepare. So it's a good and a bad.
Yeah. And so here's my thought process is that if you have the EMP shield on and you have your backup generator that has it on as well, and an event happens, you're not going to have power from the grid, but you could start your generator and you could probably pump water from your well. If you have a well system, you can get some basic electronics working inside your home. You're probably going to want to cut your generator off after, you're going to ration out whether you run off of propane or gas or whatever your generator runs off of. You're going to need to ration out the use of it and use it strictly for certain things and then shut it off. I would say at night, you probably don't want it running because you're going to be illuminated and people are going to be able to say, hey, that house has electricity. And you probably don't want the sound of the generator running as well. So you really have to, think about what is the plan in place for afterwards. You're not going to be able to use the generator for a minimum of 24 hours after the event because of what might still be in the atmosphere. But like David said, once the grids do come back online, if there's a grid that has this protection in place, then the grid might come on within a few weeks or months. If you're in a place where it doesn't, we're looking at a long period of time, potentially years, months or years before that grid comes back online, and then your electronics will be saved. You're not going to be able to access funds as well. So getting things that are commodities that you'd be able to trade with people is going to be important for survival as well if we're in a grid down situation, right?
Yeah. Start thinking about all those things. Think about, food prep. That's stuff you should be doing now. Water.
Right.
How fast do you see water and food fly off the shelves at the grocery store when there's a snowstorm? And now amplify it by 1,000,000 times.
Right.
It'll be gone in minutes, not hours.
So that if you have a well system and you have the EMP Shield and you have a backup generator, you can get some water. You could fill up a bathtub with water and be able to run filtration through that, either afterwards, have some type of filtration system to drink the water. I have a filtration system as the water comes from my well into the home that filters everything through and then also goes through a UV light system to kill any bacteria that's in there. But, thinking through how long would that last? You have to ration out your propane and your gas and making that run. So here's some top things to do in the event that there is an EMP event and what you should do first. Number one, get home ASAP. If you have the opportunity to stop someplace that isn't congested, you're going by a convenience store, there isn't really anyone there, and you want to run in, maybe get some last minute supplies, batteries, bottles of water, anything you can grab from there, you're going to probably need to pay cash, if they even sell you anything. And then get your go bag and get home in your vehicle if you have the shield. If you don't have the shield, grab your go bag that we talked about on the last episode and start walking your way home and figure out how you're going to get there. If you have kids at school or daycare, you want to get to them as soon as possible and then head home. So that's an important conversation to have with your family members. If it's during the school day hours and they're at school, what are their responsibilities? What do you want the kids to do? You probably don't want them leaving the school, and I don't think the school would release them. But where is the shelter in place for your school? Is it at the school, or do they move you to a secondary location? These are all things you need to figure out right away. Buy your supplies ahead of time. Everything we're discussing is going to be very important, mainly food, water, batteries. Check your, when you get home after one of these events, check for electrical fires. Because when the telegraph lines went down, there were sparks and fires that were caused by them. So check your whole home for an electrical fire if you don't have the EMP Shield, and make sure everything is okay there. Also, transformers and down power lines could surge, and transformers in the street or around your home and in your neighborhood could also explode and release fire and sparks as well. So be aware of that. So imagine that. I don't know if the local fire departments have the EMP Shield. So a transformer blows up, wires come down, causes a fire, trees are lit on fire, a neighborhood is on fire. Can the emergency services get to that to be able to extinguish the fire? And if they do, they're not going to have any water pressure from the hydrants to be able to supply the refill of water. Some of the pump tanks in these fire engines will be able to pull from a pond or from another water source, but I mean, just imagine the mayhem that's going to be happening. Check your electronics 24 hours after when you get home. Do not drink any tap water. Make sure that you filter it before you drink any water. If you do by chance when you get home have any warning water and you're on city water, fill your bathtub immediately, plug it up so you get as much water as you can. That water pressure is going to go away quickly. So if you are in an event and you turn on the faucet and you have some type of water pressure and you can get some water out, let that water that's in there, get it into a tub or a container so that you have access to it. You're going to want to be tempted to turn on radios for communication, but then it brings us into that turning things on prematurely. So if something is out and it's saved and the radio works, great. If it's inside of a Faraday box, I would leave it there for that minimum of 24 hours and wait before you try to turn on any type of, that type of communication. A hand crank radio, solar powered radio is going to be important. And I know there was another question that came across about solar panels. We'll talk about that in a second. Check your vehicles if they are running. I see Dusty's online and he's got an 04 Jeep. So I was asking, if that's going to be running. If you do go out to your vehicle and it starts, you damn well better hide it and make sure that you are protecting that vehicle in the event that something does happen. Shelter in place with your family and decide if you're going to stay there and harden your own home, or if you're going to have a bug out location that you're going to go to. If you have a bug out location, again, how are you going to get there? And if you have the EMP Shield and you're like, okay, I live in the middle of a city or a suburban neighborhood, but I've got to get to a highway, or there aren't many side roads, but they're very congested to get to where I need to go, a lot of those areas are going to be blocked. And how are you going to be able to get there? And if this does happen, the military might be deployed and you're not going to be able to drive on the highways anyway.
Yeah.
So
going to have to be a quick decision, that's for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
So plan it now.
Probably hardening your home would probably be the best thing to do. Get your emergency gear and food and ready to go, and right off the bat, start rationing. If you have emergency packs of food and all that, and you're nervous and you're hungry, slow down. Ration out your food from the get-go, and be aware that this might be a very, very long-term event. If you are on city water and you need to use the bathroom, you're going to need to go outside. So you're going to need to probably dig a hole for a latrine somewhere out in your yard away from the home to be able to use. If you do have any working electronics or anything inside of your home, that could be a target. And even if you don't, just having food after a couple of weeks is probably going to be a target. Make sure you have some type of protection as you're going out to use the bathroom or you're around your property.
Yeah. So there's a lot of talk about Dusty's Jeep. Dusty, where do you live? What color is the Jeep and what's the address? I want to know now. I'm going to put that in my plan.
Yeah, you need to definitely protect that vehicle, Dusty, and we won't share your location. How's that? And we'll be there to help you. So no one gets their hands on it. I bet there's a lot of offers. Why don't we auction off Dusty's vehicle here online, and you can buy a whole EMP system and a new vehicle by the time you sell it off, right? So, hi everyone, welcome online. I see people saying hello. Yeah. Hi Liza, how are you? Yeah, Liza wants to know why'd you sell it? And hi Coyote Maine, hi everyone. So if you guys have questions for us, we're going to be finishing up in a few minutes. Go ahead and put it in the comments. I hope you guys got a lot of information from this. If you did, please hit that like button. And if you haven't subscribed to our channel already, please do so and stay in touch with us, because we're going to be doing regular scheduled live streams, which brings us to our next point. I have a bunch of research papers that I gathered off the internet, from government websites, from non-government websites, from EMP Shield, from different sources, and I put them into our website for site members only to have access. So if you go to our website and you're not a member of Training for Survival yet, you can sign up. It's completely free and easy. All you need is a username, password, and some basic information. You'll be able to click on the members tab at the top after you log in, and you'll see file share there. Click on that and you'll find an EMP folder. And inside that EMP folder, there's going to be all of the documentation that I did research with and that I thought was going to be valuable for people to read, and even stuff that's kind of really a dive deep type of white paper. But I know a lot of people like to really dig into things, as I do. So I encourage you to please go to the website, log in as a member. If you're not a member yet, sign up, and you'll get access to all of that, the research papers that we have there. And if you haven't heard already and you're joining us later in the stream, EMPShield.com. The coupon code is at the bottom of your screen, T4Survival. Get $50 off of your purchase and get your product installed inside of your vehicle or inside of your home. I highly suggest, if you're local, go see Dave Hall, outstanding person, and get him to install your EMP Shield. He has a nice package for all of our members, so just head over to Dave Hall, tell him you heard it on Training for Survival, let him know you want that EMP Shield. He'll get you really good package pricing for the Shield and for the installation. So check out Dave Hall here in town. If you're not local and you're coming up for camp, make an appointment with Dave Hall when you come up for camp, and he'll install it for you. How about that, huh? That was smooth. That was real smooth.
So when is camp?
Camp is happening May 14th through the 18th. And if you haven't signed up already, please contact us with any questions you might have and get your space reserved for the upcoming camp. David has been putting some outstanding, I'm not going to tell him what you put in for the notes, because we have shared notes that we go back and forth on for the upcoming camp. But there's some good little things coming up that you're going to be really excited about. I'm not going to say anything, but we've got some really good stuff in store for the May camp, as we always do. And if you listen to the testimonials, we always level up every camp to something else that is an element of surprise and pretty cool. For you guys to experience.
Something actually really neat that they might see when they come to camp, and I'll let that out. Yeah. As a Jeep might be there.
Yeah, Dusty, I think I've got video of your Jeep at the past couple of camps. I do.
Yes.
It's a kick-ass Jeep. Am I allowed to say that? I don't know if YouTube likes that word, but. So site members, what you need to do to become a site member of the site, go to the website. It's free and easy, but the big part to that is we're going to be continuing these live streams on YouTube and on our Facebook channels. We'll do about a half hour, 40 minutes or so on these platforms, and then we're going to sign off and go to an after party on our website for site members only. That's going to allow us to kind of speak a little bit more loosely and freely about our real, true thought process on things, and dive deep into some things that are important to discuss and talk about, and be able to I guess not be washed over by social media and get banned and boycotted and so forth on our social media platform. So we'll keep it clean here, then we'll head over to the after party on the website. We're going to be launching our next live stream for the first week in February. We'll get you the date soon. We're probably going to push these off to start at 8 rather than 7, because a lot of people said it's a little bit too early, especially if they're on the in the Midwest or on the West Coast. So we're going to probably push this a little bit later, so stay tuned to our YouTube channel and Facebook pages as to when our next live stream would be. What content would you like? You guys are co-hosting these shows with us, so please message us or put it in the comments if you're watching the replay. What would you like to hear us talk about, discuss, and dive deep into? And we'll make it happen on a future live stream. David, anything else you'd like to bring up before we start to sign off?
No, I think that's it. I would just say plan, and check out that EMP Shield. It's pretty wild stuff they got to offer.
Absolutely. Thanks for joining us, everyone. My name is Jamie on behalf of myself and
David Kahn. Have a wonderful evening.
Thanks for joining us. We'll see you on the next live stream. Be safe, everyone.